Hello, I'm Carrie Heeter, and in this mini-lecture, I'm going to welcome you to the Understanding Users class and give a short introduction to the wild world of user experience design. So I'm a professor of media and information for Michigan State University. I've lived in San Francisco and telecommuted for the last 20 years. I'm director of the Serious Game Graduate Certificate Program. I'm a researcher in the Games for Entertainment and Learning Lab, and I run my company MindTune Lab, which creates cyber meditation. So I have a long history of experience design, starting with video production, CD-ROM, web, virtual reality, serious games, lots and lots of different things that I create and also study. I'm sure you've all heard the word usability. Usability refers to how usable a product, software, or a game is, whether the user can do what they need to do in it, not get stuck, not get lost. Usability, though, is a subset of the much bigger picture of user experience. So that's what the little u is in the big purple circle. User experience is the big circle, usability is just this tiny little piece. Same thing with player experience. There's player usability, which is, can they get through the game? Do they know what to do? And there's the broader picture of player experience. Here's another big picture, tiny sliver comparison. The difference between user experience and user interface. So on the right, there's a user interface, a single page out of a pay-by-phone app. So that's a little tiny piece of what the user experience is. And on the other side, there's the pay-by-phone as it shows up on the parking meter in the real world, right? And so the user experience is the whole deal of finding a place to park, parking your car, figuring out how to pay by phone and that kind of thing. So big picture user experience, the whole thing in the world, life, everything that, how what you're creating fits into that. A user interface is that little piece, maybe on the screen, that the user interacts with. UX research is so cool. So there's the surface layer of what you can see in the moment. There's looking into the people, the context, the activities, and then there's all sorts of deeper psychological and sociological considerations. So lots and lots of depth that we can go into. Many of the methods that we use in UX research are the same as is used in scientific research, but they're used with a very different slant, a different urgency, a different set of considerations. So, for example, in UX research, we create new products. Scientific research is about creating new knowledge. UX research has a fast turnaround, often overnight. Scientific research takes months or years to complete. UX research is often on a shoestring budget. Scientific research is often well-funded from large grants. UX research might even have a sample size of 1 sometimes. Scientific research usually uses a large sample. UX research is often only useful until the next design revision. Scientific research is aiming to make a lasting contribution in the world. Now these two can dance together, and if you're interested in scientific research, you'll still have a lot to learn in this class, but there's some really key differences for the most part. The business and creative world has become a lot more accepting of the importance of user experience research than it used to be, but you will still encounter attitudes. In fact, you may even hold some of these attitudes yourself, starting out in the class. It's just web design, right? But we already do market research. It sounds expensive. It takes too much time. Is it statistically significant? But we already know what needs to be done. That's someone else's job. Anyway, by the end of the class, you might become your own UX evangelist. You might find yourself explaining to your team why it's important to listen to the user. We'll see how it goes. Pretty much everything we study in this class could come down to what you would consider common sense. The thing is that there are so many fine details of how to do each common sense thing right that it ends up being worth studying in detail. So user experience research is all about ways of knowing things you want to know. And the key ways of knowing are to observe yourself, to actually ask, or to try to measure. And we'll do these things in this class. We'll observe people using products, and we'll observe the products themselves. We'll ask through focus groups, through interviews, and other methods. And there's also the possibility of actually measuring what people are doing, how their body is reacting, how their mind is reacting in terms of the individual level or large-scale analytics. There are 3 large user observation research quests in the class. Quest 1 is about observing people. Quest 2 is about observing products. And Quest 3 is about observing people using products. We also cover other big ideas and skills, such as protecting human subjects, sampling, secondary research, or research that's already been conducted by other people, accessibility, laboratory versus field research, remote research, and then ways of sharing results. It's great that you conduct the research, but you want ways to visualize and communicate what you have found in ways that both draw insights and help other people figure out what to do based on what you've learned. We'll talk about portfolios for getting jobs in user experience design and how to go about getting a job. These are the 2 textbooks for the class this year, the User Experience Team of 1 and Validating Product Ideas. The User Experience Team of 1 goes through 27 different user experience research methods. 27, and that's just the starting point. Yay! Pretty interesting. Planning and discovery methods, testing and validation, design, research. So much to learn. UX methods go beyond gut instincts and assumptions to actually look at people, at data. We examine contexts and users, user needs, and we systematically collect data, then use our minds to pull insights out of those observations. The art of drawing insights is at least as important as the art of collecting data. These are some of the names for other UX methods. You can come up with a design challenge, a needs assessment, personas, use cases, use participatory design so that your users are actually part of creating the product, card sorts to come up with how to organize your information, player types to inform how you design the game. So this is actually, for me, from my perspective, wildly creative and interesting. There are so many choices, so many options, that what you really want to do is have a desire to learn, to find out, a desire to look at your users, to look at their context. And then we give you all these different methods that you can use directly or adapt to your specific needs. Designing a product or an experience is actually, in the best implementation, not a neat linear process. You don't come up with a plan, it's all set, it's perfect, you know how you want to do it, and then move to implementation. You go through, ideally, what we call the design squiggle. And it's a beautifully messy process where you start out not really sure where you're going to end up, and you're sort of all over the place, and you try a little of this and that, and it could be about that. And this is the phase where actually user experience research is the most important, is to help you follow those squiggles all over the place and then help you narrow down. That's where the research is going to have the most impact. Then at the next phase, between research and concept, you're getting more and more clear. And then finally, you reach a point where you have quite a bit of good direction. Actually, for me, that last part of the line is also pretty messy, because I'm always open to what the next better way to do it is. My products tend to get good by about version 50. So different phases of a project have, there's different kinds of user experience methods that you can use at different phases. And please note that we do not use all 27 methods on every project. You use the ones that are useful, that you have time for, that work. So there's different methods for the requirements phase, for the solution design, for the technical build, and then after the build, different techniques to use at different times. I'll take you on a quick tour of the Validating Research book, which also takes that idea of there's different phases of a project. Strategizing is in the red, executing it is in the orange or yellow, and assessing it is in the blue. And so each of the chapters and methods shows which is the big circle is the best time to ask these questions, and the smaller circle is a good time to ask. So chapter 1 is about needs assessment. So that's big in strategizing and then shows up a little bit in assessment at the end. Chapter 2 is personas, again, heavy on the strategizing. And then when you're in assessing and revising, that's another good time for figuring out who your personas actually are as opposed to the ones you thought they would be, and refining them. Chapter 3 asks the question, how do people currently solve a problem? And they teach an ethnography method in that chapter. And this one is big in all 3 phases. How do people use it before we've actually made anything? While we're making it, how do people use it? And then after we've made it, how does it fit into their lives? Chapter 4, task analysis or diaries. What's the user's workflow? It's mostly in the strategizing phase. Chapter 5, what do people want? User testing. Strategizing actually throughout. Executing, assessing. Chapter 6, usability testing. So they claim in the book that it's execution is every step of the way and then assessment, but you can actually also do usability testing in strategizing if you're testing usability of related products rather than the one that you're making. I use the term product loosely. A product can be a game, it can be an app that you're selling, it can be a party that you're planning, or a class you're teaching. I guess experience is probably a better word. Chapter 7, experiments, A/B testing. Which solution is better? All 3 phases equally useful. And Chapter 8, how do people find stuff? Another aspect of usability testing. So in this class, I want to instill in you a desire to know things, a desire to understand more about your users, more about their context, more about what they're doing, a desire to do research before you finish making a product. And I also want to give you a lot of methods and ways of thinking about research that you can apply in whether you're a scientist or a product designer or a user experience professional. I hope you enjoy exploring and learning from this class. Thanks.